Good morning. Welcome to this Planning, Taxi Licensing and Rights of Way Committee meeting. My name is Councillor Carl Lewis and I have the pleasure of chairing this meeting today. The first item on the agenda, as usual, is apologies. So over to Carol for the apologies and the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth D. Jones. Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Angela Davis. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Les George. Councillor Hylwyn Hume. Councillor Peter James. Councillor Adrian Jones. Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Ian McIntosh.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan. No. Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
I've received apologies from Councillor Edwin Roderick. Councillor Gwynfor Thomas. Apologies from Councillor Elwyn Vaughan and also Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson. Councillor Hugh Williams.
Thank
you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Carol. On to the second item of the agenda, which is minutes from the previous meeting. Came in on email at 16:38. They're pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do I have a proposer and a seconder that they were accurate? And thank you very much, Councillor Les. Do I have someone else? Thank you very much, Councillor Angela. No observations, great. On to the third item on the agenda, which is to receive declarations of interest of members relating to items to be considered on the agenda. I believe, Colin, you have.
Yes, I'll be declaring an officer's interest in the first application, Chair, because I live close by and I jointly own a field that's immediately adjacent to the applicant's premises.
Thank you. B, to receive members' requests that a record be made of the membership of Town and Community Council where discussion is taking place on matters for consideration of this committee. Yep. C, to receive declarations of members of the committee that they'll be acting as a local representative in respect to an individual application being considered by the committee. I believe we have Councillor Ian here today. Oh, sorry, you'll be D, sorry. Do apologise. D, to note details of members of the council who are not members of the committee, who are acting as a local representative in respect to an individual application being considered by the committee. Councillor Ian. Yes. Thank you. On to item 4, updates. Has everyone had time to read the update that came through? If anyone hasn't, please indicate and we'll allow time for that to be read. But if
No, that's good, Chair.
Pardon? What was that, Councillor Williams?
No, no problem. No, that's grand.
Okay. On to the first application of today, which is 22/2038/FUL demolition of a bungalow and change of use of land to residential to A1 retail. Used together with erection of extension to shop of formation of additional parking area, hardened shed and garden supplies, Gilsfield. Taking us through this application is Luke Woosnam, planner. Over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, members. I trust that everyone's had a chance to read the update report and the committee report as well for this one. Like the Chair has just said, this application is 22/2038/FUL. This is a copy of the location map. The location of the site is there in yellow with the yellow star. To the east of the site, you can see in the distance, that is where Gilsfield is. The site runs adjacent to the A490 highway. That road to the north leads to the likes of Myford, Llanson Fry, Llanbutton. And then if you're going south, that would go towards Welshpool. A more zoomed in map shows the site as well. To the west of the site, there's a number of residential properties. To the east, obviously the highway, and then the junction there that leads towards Gilsfield. This is a copy of the site location map. The application site is specifically the red outline area, and the blue then shows all the land the applicant actually owns. This is more zoomed in as well. This shows, I don't know if you can see my cursor. This shows the forecourt and the garage area. This shows the shop for the garage, the bungalow which is on site, and then to the south of that is the actual garden centre and storage area. The next slide shows where the proposal is going to be built. It just forms an extension to the shop, which goes towards the garden centre, so it'll all be joined up and be one. The red outline shows where the original bungalow was, and then it shows on this plan where the proposed parking area is going to be. So 15 additional parking spaces for the site. This is just a quick look at the proposed front elevation. The extension is proposed to measure 23.8 meters in length, 9.4 meters in width, 3.1 meters to the eaves, and 5.3 meters to the actual ridge. This is the rear elevation. And the side elevation there. It also there shows the properties which are to the west of the site. And there it shows sort of a southern looking elevation there. The extension is going to be finished in grey metal sheeting roof and green cladded walls. I pass back now to the chair for the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luke. First of our speakers is Councillor Ian Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, everyone. I've called in this planning application due to significant public interest in the staggered A490 junction with the B4392, the location of this application, and public safety. The location of this commercial enterprise is immediately adjacent to the junction, with the entrance and exit situated perpendicular to the A490, with no filter lane to the combined entrance or exit. Hence, vehicles leaving the site must turn into the flow of traffic towards Ptlrw or cross it towards Welshpool. The speed limit in this section is 60 miles an hour. Following a video news article in My Welshpool last year concerning this dangerous junction, which received more than 20,000 viewings, and a petition raised by residents to reduce the speed limit, Russell George MS established with the Welsh Government that responsibility for all aspects of this section of the A490 rest with the Powys County Council Highways Department. 2 weeks after the video news release, there was an accident outside these premises, resulting in a motorcyclist being taken to hospital with 2 broken legs. 2 weeks after Powys Highways submitted their recommendation to this planning application for this, this commercial development is safe, there was another accident with no one injured and the accident not reported. I wish to challenge the basis for this conclusion and suggest that the recommendation by Powys Highways is dangerously flawed and will place road users and retail customers at significant risk. Powys Highways asserts that the increase in traffic exiting the premises is directly proportional to the increase in retail space, which is small, and so additional traffic exiting the premises would not be significant and not present additional risk to the general public. However, this assumes that there are no other constraints restricting vehicle flow into or out of the premises. These premises are accessed by a shared entrance and exit to 4 fuel pumps and 2 sets of 4 parking slots. Turning space is significantly restricted. During periods of peak trade, which tends to coincide with A490 peak traffic flow, access to parking spaces and turning space severely restricts the frequency with which vehicles can enter, access parking, or exit the site, effectively acting as a bottleneck. Parking can be chaotic during peak trade conditions. The primary purpose of this development project is to remove this bottleneck by adding a further 15 car parking spaces to the operation with improved turning space for vehicles to exit more efficiently. This represents an almost trebling of parking space availability and a very significant increase in the peak flow capacity of the site. This will result in the applicants being able to trade with more customers within a given period of time, especially during peak time. The small increase in retail space will allow the business to increase the number of tills from 2 to 4 or more, similar to the Tuffins retail operation in Buttington, with no reduction in retail space if the applicant so desires. Therefore, during times of peak trade, the frequency at which vehicles can enter and leave the site will be significantly increased. Hence, the risk to A490 peak flow traffic adjacent to the exit is also significantly increased. The local community has repeatedly called for a reduction in the speed limit from 60 miles an hour to 40 or even 30 miles an hour in order to save lives. On January the 1st, I was in receipt of a second petition signed by residents in support of this application, provided that the speed limit be reduced. At face value, this is a very exciting business project for the applicant and one which I would strongly support if the increased risk to retail customers and road users was properly mitigated. In conclusion, I ask that this planning application not be approved until the Powys Highways Department has reduced the A490 speed limit through this junction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor. Does the applicant and the agent wish to reply? Okay. Jan Ellis, you have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The Harding family have owned and operated this garden centre and petrol station for almost 40 years and have become a very well-known and valuable community asset. Currently a mixed-use site with an aging prefab timber bungalow at its centre, this application seeks to simplify the planning position and remove the residential use, providing a simple retail extension as part of the current garden centre offering. An extension which represents only 9.5% increase in the total retail area, together with improvements on on-site car parking. Increasing the parking numbers from 9 spaces to 24, which brings significant gains on site, easing traffic flow and improving pedestrian safety. To date, there have been no accidents from the entrance to the garden centre, which has good clear visibility onto the highway. Historically, accidents around the A490 junction into Gillsfield have been caused by driver error and not speed, as has been confirmed by the police, who have objected to previous attempts to introduce a speed restriction along the trunk road. With planning approval recently granted for 22 houses on the B4392, there will be a significant increase in traffic use at this junction, which is already a preferred route from the village to avoid traffic calming measures introduced past the school. This proposed housing development presented an opportunity for traffic improvements along the highway. An outlined stage and extension to the 30-mile-an-hour zone was offered up by the agent and was turned down by the Highways Authority, citing that a 30-mile-an-hour restriction doesn't comply with Welsh Government guidance and therefore cannot be implemented, suggesting a 40-mile-an-hour buffer zone be introduced. Together with consideration of providing a link for pedestrians and cyclists to the shop. This does not appear to have been followed up as part of a reserve matters application, nor can I see that any action to push for these improvements was taken by local councillors or the community. A prime opportunity missed, and one which is now unfairly impacting Mr. Harding as part of this application. The proposals before you are fully supported by all of the consultees and to a certain extent the Community Council. The need to call this in before you today is questionable, and we would hope you can support a local business trying to simply create more jobs and hopefully provide a community service for the next 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen Ellis. That concludes our speakers. I'll hand back now to Luke Wisdom to take us to his conclusion and recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, speakers. In assessing the principle of the proposed development, consideration has to be given to the LDP policy R4, which relates to the establishment of new neighbourhood and village shops or services. They would only be approved if 1, they are located in town, large villages or small villages. Number 2, serve the needs of the local area, or 3, do not undermine the retail hierarchy or have an unacceptable adverse impact on the vitality and viability of the retail centre or other nearby centres in accord with policy R1. In relation to this application, the application cited an existing petrol station, garden centre and convenience store located just outside of Gillsfield. It's not actually located within the development boundary, but this development would just expand the shop and garden centre on site to provide more retail space and parking. It's considered the site already meets point 2 of R4, and this development just forms a small extension. The principle of the development is therefore considered acceptable and in accordance with LDP policy R4. I'll just show you some photos of the site. So obviously that's from the front. Again, this shows a photo of the front of the premises. That is the existing access. There are no amendments to this access. It will remain the same. There are no changes proposed. Again, another photo of the site leading north, and also shows there the junction towards Gillsfield. And again. And then this is a photo then showing southbound towards Welshpool. This is the visibility. And again, near the visibility as well. As I just mentioned, there are no proposed changes to this access. The Powys County Council Highways Authority have been consulted on this development. They haven't requested that any changes are made. They are happy with the existing access. The Highways Authority confirmed that the entire site is accessed from the Class I A490 County Highway via a simple T access, which is wide enough to accommodate the simultaneous ingress and egress of vehicles, including larger vehicles. The Highways Authority concludes that the proposal will only likely have a marginal impact on existing levels of vehicular and customer movements to and from the site, and that the increase would be adequately mitigated by the removal of the existing dwelling and by the provision of an additional 15 parking spaces, coupled with additional manoeuvring areas. The local planning authority, shall I say, have received 16 letters of objection to the application, which relate to the existing access and the excess speeds on the adjacent A490 highway. The Powys Highways Authority have confirmed the existing access can accommodate the proposal, and the site does not need to be upgraded. Therefore, subject to the inclusion of a recommended condition by the HA, is considered the proposal development fundamentally complies with policy DM13 and T1. Again, further photos then of the site. That is the forecourt. The convenience store there is in the background. as well as the existing bungalow, which is to be demolished. Again, another photo of the forecourt. In the background there, you can see the garden centre building, also further outbuildings here and storage areas. That is a photo of the bungalow which is to be demolished. The extension is obviously going to meet up with these two buildings to form one. Future Wales National Plan 2040 states that planning authorities must act to reduce levels of car parking in urban areas, including supporting a car-free development in accessible locations and developments with car parking spaces that allow them to be converted to other uses over time. Where car parking is provided for new non-residential developments, planning authorities should seek a minimum of 10% of car parking spaces to have electric vehicle charging points. This development provides additional parking for the convenience store and garden centre. It is considered that condition is necessary to ensure that EV parking is provided as part of this development to meet Future Wales. Again, further photos. This map shows the application site here. The road there is in red, and then to the east of the site shows a historic parking garden area, which is the Garth, and also there is a black symbol here which shows a listed structure. The listed structure is a set of gates, and they form entrance E to the Garth. The Paris-built Heritage Officer has been consulted on the development, as well as CADU, and they both consider that there will be no adverse harm on either asset, and that they are happy for the application to go ahead. As said previously, this just forms an extension, and is not considered the extension will cause any adverse impacts. As the site is a petrol station, the Paris Contaminated Land team have been consulted. They did request a contaminated land report to be undertaken. This has been provided by the applicants and has been sent back to David Jones. He has come back saying that he does not object to the development going ahead, subject to a number of conditions which request that further reports are undertaken prior to any works being started. So a further preliminary investigation needs to be undertaken. Members, my recommendation is one of conditional consent. I pass back now to the chair for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luke, for that report. Much has been talked about the highway situation there from the local member and the agent, and we do have Highways Officer Alistair Knox in attendance for any questions relating to highways. First of members wishing to contribute to discussion is Councillor Les George, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to press.
Councillor Les, if you could press your button, please. Thank you.
Just one or two questions to clarify one or two things. The extra retail space, is it similar size to the actual demolition of the bungalow, or is it a bigger size than the bungalow?
Do you want to answer that one?
So this plan, Councillor Les, shows the original bungalow and amenity area in red.
Yeah.
There it also shows the extension there. Just about, you can probably see it. So the extension would be smaller than the original area, which is shown there in red.
Yeah, that's it.
But obviously then it's, the proposal then includes extra parking.
I see, right, yeah, that's a bonus, yes. Another thing, Luke, with the extra retail space created, is the business increasing its portfolio products, or is it remain the same portfolio products, just want an extra space to do so?
I think it's just an extension, really, just to merge both buildings together.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the same.
Yeah, I see. And thirdly, the accidents that been reported near the site, were they because of the particular road itself, or was the premises involved in those accidents?
I'll go over to Alistair for that one.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think that it's very difficult to say sometimes, with the movements, exactly what was going on. So I don't think there's anything to suggest that they were particularly linked with the site there. But it's not always easy to tell. But I don't think they were related to vehicles pulling out or anything. But whether there was any other activity, it's not particularly clear.
Right. Right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Les. Members, I'm led by yourselves, so I need contribution. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair. So actually, I think this is a lovely application of a nice business, an appropriate business for a rural location, and it's nicely done and set out and everything. But the bungalow only gets a scant mention. In our housing briefings, we've heard about the shortage of housing across Powys. So should we be concerned that a residential dwelling is being taken out of the housing portfolio?
Peter, do you want to answer that one?
Again, it's I don't think it's a planning consideration here. I think it's something that we certainly look at with policy. When we're trying to work out future need, we have to take account of losses that may occur within the housing stock, and that then impacts on dwelling requirement. For this committee, it's really, is the proposal acceptable? So it's redevelopment. It must be seen really properly as reuse of previously developed land and so on. And is the proposal acceptable in that context, in line with policy? But when we get to policy development, separate from this, as I say, those sorts of things get taken into account, like vacancy rates. And I think this time we'll be looking at the repair and replacement LDP. We'll be looking at things like holiday lets, short-term lets. If they're taking houses away from meeting housing needs, we have to over-provide in a sense to be able to meet people's needs. But it's not really one for this committee, that one. Okay.
Well, on that basis, I can understand the proprietors of this business wanting to use that available space for their business use. So obviously the next thing, I know you mentioned the highway, but that clearly is the massive elephant not in the room, isn't it? So looking at the photographs, there is the long grass verge in the photograph, so southbound towards Welshpool. There's a wide verge that I believe is outside the boundary of the proprietors. So that must be council owned. So is there not an option there to have a pull-in splay on the road? Would that satisfy the residents' concerns?
Alistair, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I think the road as it is, it's had an improvement at some stage. I can't remember the exact date at the moment, but it's obviously been improved to a standard, and those wide verges were established at that time when there was obviously no need for there to be a right turning lane. The reason for those verges is to obviously give you visibility into and out of the site and through that that whole road as well. So I don't think there's any trigger in the guidance that we work to that would enable us to be able to justify, if it were to go to appeal, sort of asking them to provide any turning lane. And I'm not even convinced that the traffic levels that it would generate would warrant such a turning lane anyway. So I don't think we should be looking at a turning lane, because I don't think we could justify it.
Okay, so to clarify, you're saying the residents' concerns are unjustified?
I'm not saying they're unjustified. I mean, I think, you know, there's always going to be, individuals will feel that there's a need for things. However, what I am saying is that on the guidance that we work to, there are no triggers for this application that would enable us to sort of go back and ask for more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Angela. Councillor Gareth D. Jones, Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think councillor Angela has touched upon what I was going to say. Yeah, an excellent application put together well by the applicant and Mrs. Jen Ellis. We've got to look at this highways issue that is given concern has been raised by councillor Ian Harrison. Did I hear right? Did Jen Ellis say that there was an offer by the applicant to do something on the speed limit? Did she say that?
I believe so. I'll just revert to Alistair for that.
And if that is the case, why was it turned down? Obviously, from what councillor Harrison said, there has been a petition of some 2,000 people. I know that the community council is now in support of this, but I am intrigued to know why the highways would have turned down such an offer that would possibly have avoided this application coming before us this morning. So I'd be intrigued to hear that, please, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alistair, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't quite catch when the speakers were saying about the 50 limit. My understanding was that it was with another application, not this one.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
But it's still.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Why would that?
it's still, yeah. I would have to defer to a colleague on that, I'm afraid. I'm not an expert in speed limits. Typically, I know they would look at, you know, they work to Welsh Government guidelines. So if they thought that speed limit is appropriate, I'm not sure why it wouldn't be taken up, you know, under that offer. Because obviously, you know, normally we can condition them and ask the applicant to pay for them. I would have to go away and check as to why, you know, whether it met Welsh Government guidance or not. I suspect it may not have done, but I can't confirm that 100%.
Okay, it's.
What I would suggest, yeah, Vice Chair, is if you're willing for a 5-minute recess to find out information, would that be appropriate?
Yeah, I think that's very relevant to this application. If that could be clarified, then hopefully we can move on with a recommendation or go with officer consent.
Okay, Alistair, are you happy with 5 minutes to find out information out?
If I can get hold of people today, yes. Yep, I'll see who I can get hold of.
Yeah, we'll give you 5 minutes, which will take us, please, Carol, to 10:40. Okay, we'll recess for 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, members, welcome back. I do apologise for that slight delay there while Alistair went out and found the information needed to answer the question for the Vice Chair. Before we go into the meeting, could we have a roll call, please, Carol, just to make sure everyone is back in, please?
Thank you, Chair. So councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth D. Jones. Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Angela Davis. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Les George. Councillor Highland Hume, we've had apologies from her. Councillor Peter James. Councillor Adrian Jones. Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Ian McIntosh.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan, wasn't here before. Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Apologies, Councillor Edwin Roderick. Gwynfor Thomas has also been sent apologies. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan, apologies. Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson, apologies. Councillor Hugh Williams.
Matt.
That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Carol. Okay, thank you for that. Alistair, have you got the information that the Vice Chair was seeking, please?
Yeah, certainly. Right, the other application apparently has an outline consent. So when that comes forward, and obviously we don't know when that will be, obviously there are opportunities then for us to sort of look at speed limits and ask for that one, that development to sort of fund it. That's not a given though, however, you know, that there may be reasons why we can't ask them to fund it, but certainly that's still on the books when it comes forward. Additionally, the traffic engineer advises me that there has been a petition about the speed limits there. So along the A490. So he has traffic counters ready to go out there. They have to go out in what we call a neutral period. That obviously doesn't cover the Easter fortnight. So they're set up and ready to go out after the 14th of April, when they'll go onto site then for a minimum of, typically, I think you'll have 2 clear weeks of collecting data. What comes back from those counters will then inform what that sort of speed limit maybe should be. And based on the current guidance, depending on what the counters say, there is scope. Yes, it could stay at 60 or it could be 50 or 40. So there is scope there to actually bring that down depending on the evidence that comes from those counters.
Vice Chair, do you want to come back on that?
Thank you, Alcy. Yeah, that's quite encouraging that there is
Yeah.
work going ahead now currently to address the concerns of the local member and the residents.
Yeah.
So the applicant would be willing to support this, and I'm inclined to support this application, but I see there's a number of hands up, so I'll wait a few others and
Okay,
come back possibly.
yeah, no problem. Councillor Hugh Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 points for clarification, really. On the overall location plan, there's an indication that there was a junction beyond, further along that road, coming out of a residential development, or is that the one we can see? Does that, no, it's not the one we can see. Can you have a look at the location plan, please? But also, my second question is that in the photograph of the bungalow, it showed behind it a residential property. It does suggest within the literature that was sent out that it is not affected, but can the planner explain again what effect this development could have on that residence?
Please.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh. In terms of amenity, neighbouring amenity, there are no windows on the rear of the extension, which would mean that there'd be no loss of privacy. If I just get another plan up here. This plan shows the right to light. Every application has to provide that 25 degrees. As you can see on this plan, that does meet that, and therefore there wouldn't be any adverse loss of light to the privacy or the garden.
But the dwelling is not in the ownership of the applicant.
No, the one you can see that in the neighbouring property isn't there.
Yeah. Okay, and the residential road, which appears to be joining the, what is it, A4? I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
A490.
It's the one which is just the other side of the road, further on down here.
Yeah, so is that when we're talking about the road conditions and speed and what have you, it appears to be on that bend. Does that have any relevance? Because we are talking about the speed and accidents on this road, can we take that? Is that irrelevant to this application?
Alistair, could you answer that one, please?
Can you show the location plan again, please, where it is located?
Yeah.
It's this one here, isn't it, Councillor Hugh?
Yes, I mean, I would think that is significant, and we're not mentioning it.
Are you able to answer that one, please?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. If you look at that, the road that you were indicating there, that is that's the B4392. That crosses over the A490 and continues on the road on the right-hand side as well. So when they look at speed limits, they will actually look at the whole area. So they will look at those 2 B roads and the A road going through there. And it may be that you'll end up with a different speed limit on that B road. So it is relevant because it's a junction onto the A road. However, because of the design of the A road, those wide verges that were referred to earlier, they all take account of the visibility requirements for that junction and for the current speeds. So it's all designed to that standard. If there is a speed limit, a need to revise the speed limit, it will actually extend further than just the A490 there. So it will all be taken into account. It's not just the immediate area of the A490 that they will look at. Similarly, with the development that was referred to, that I believe is off that B road. And that could trigger, you know, a need to look at that speed limit on that section as well.
So that sounds
Right,
fine.
okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor George, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was very encouraged, as Gareth was, about the road traffic review and the council doing that. I was going to say, if the applicants are quite willing to look at any future traffic calming measures, I'm not quite sure that Councillor Gareth proposed it or not, but if he didn't, I would go with the offer's recommendation on the condition that the traffic calming could be looked at in the future.
I believe that traffic calming is potentially going to be looked at.
Would be that's it,
from
but
the
I
study.
go with the offer's recommendation, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adrian Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of, why have I got an echo now?
It's okay.
Okay. I can understand why Ian's brought this forward, and it's good that he's highlighted the issues of the speeding. But I just got to mention that it is quite a development area. And we have had a discussion from Hugh pointed out at the junction of the road going up below the garage, which goes to a major caravan park. And I think in January they had planning permission to extend that car park, and there's no mention of speeding issues with that junction. So that needs to be mentioned. And there's 22 houses going on the other junction we've discussed. So, I'm encouraged that the highways are looking at the speeding, but I don't think we've got to treat this fairly. This applicant, he's got a good business going there. We can't refuse it if the other ones have been approved in my mind. So I'm for approving the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adrian. Could we knock down some of the legacy hands there, please, to assist me? Councillor Gareth Pugh, please.
Thank you, Chair. Do we have a percentage increase that this is going to cause for, say, turning movements, given that it's only a 9.5% increase to the retail use of the existing building? Do we have a percentage increase of traffic that they're predicting with this small extension?
I believe Councillor Gareth Pugh, it is 2.5%, but I'll revert to Alistair Knox for the actual fact.
Certainly from the guidance that we work to, yeah, the sort of indication is that that sort of increase in floor area would typically give you sort of a 2.5% increase. Yeah.
Right. Like we've heard a lot about the traffic and we've heard Ian with his concerns, but I think we're getting a little bit hung up here on what is existing. What we got to remember is this business, this garden centre, this petrol station, the shop is all there at the moment. So all as we're looking really is at a 9.5% increase to the retail use, which we're predicting maybe 2.5% increase in traffic. Under TAN 18, it says a 5% increase in turning movements is a material consideration. Given the fact that this is less than 5% increase in turning movements, should we be giving this any consideration for such a small extension?
Luke, I'll revert to you, please.
Yes, obviously we do have to consider it. But obviously following the response from highways, they are happy that the existing access can accommodate that additional traffic.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it can. Like you say, if it's 2.5% and TAN 18 says it should be 5% before it becomes a material consideration. Yeah, I'm all for this, and I appreciate all the concerns, but the concerns are there with it existing. We're not looking at building a whole new complex there. So based on that, when you're ready, I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you very very much. Councillor Gareth. Councillor Peter James, please.
Thank you, Chair. I really like this application, and also it's just a question really. Is the application creating new jobs, and if so, is there parking spaces for the actual new people that are employed, and is there an area for offloading and loading of more things that are being delivered? I'm just thinking, because if they're actually making spaces for parking, are those parking spaces going to be used up by new employees and for deliveries?
Thank you very much for that question. In the press over the last week, really, it has been suggested that this will create an extra 10 jobs. This has been clarified, and the development could create up to 4 part-time members of staff. I believe currently that the members of staff do park in this area here, which is photographed. And obviously then drop-offs are accommodated within the area here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peter James. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Yeah, so still on the same theme of the road, and I accept that all the concerns about the road in its current form, but I think for that very reason is why we need to investigate that this road is suitable for any sort of expansion or no expansion. Is this road suitable and safe in its current form? If we look at the photograph that shows the junction opposite, no, not that one. Keep going. That one. Oh no, there's one more as well. There. Stop there. You can see on the verge opposite that a vehicle, probably a lorry, and several of them by the mud, is right in the verge. And I'm really curious, why is that happening? Because the road is quite wide. It's not that busy, or certainly not in these photos. And it sounds from what people are saying, it's not the amount of vehicles, it's the speed of the vehicles. So what is causing vehicles to ride the verge there opposite? I don't think this necessarily impacts on this application, but I think it's an important factor for the road safety in that area.
Alistair, would you like to take that one? I can only hypothesize that it could be a lorry driver pulling over, nip into the shop. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it, Chair. I mean, I think like yourself, I would only be sort of quoting sort of typical scenarios. I suppose we don't know exactly what's caused it. It could be poor driving, somebody turning out of that junction, and as you say, with a 40-foot articulated trailer, if they don't quite get it right, the back wheels are over the curb and up the verge. As you alluded to, it could be somebody pulling up on the side to cross to get something from the shop. Could be poor driving coming out of the site, or could even be somebody trying to squeeze past when somebody's trying to turn in. So could be any number of reasons. I think if you go anywhere throughout the county, you're going to see it. It's one of those things that happens. It shouldn't if drivers drive according to the code, the highway code, but it does happen, unfortunately.
Okay, I mean, I'm inclined to want to support this application. I think it is disappointing that the road is so dangerous, and I'm really pleased to hear there's going to be some surveys done into the speed, etc. I'm curious that why would we be listening to this application before? I'm always curious why there are so many conditions to an application. Is it not better to get all the conditions sorted so that once an application is approved, you go ahead? Is it a matter of cost? Is it cheaper to get your plan in first than do all these other things?
I would say, Councillor Andrew, it's a lot to do with what we've discussed before, uploading applications of the information for office to decide. And it's something that I know that the portfolio holder is trying to promote, as well as myself. So I believe that's the case, but I'll revert to Peter.
I would always rather avoid conditions if we can, but it's all around the amount of information we receive of applications. Many conditions have to be discharged as well. And I think that causes other, it causes work for everybody because they have to be discharged in time. We also potentially see them being forgotten, which then leads to enforcement breaches being reported to us. So I think there's an area of work there that we need to work on, but it's acceptable. There will be conditions added. That's part of the course. That's normal. We're no different to any other authority there, but always better if we've got information up front, and then we can avoid. All you would do is then just condition the plan or the document and say, your development must comply with that. Okay, so it'd still be a condition, but in a different way.
Okay, so to clarify, it's what you've said before, really, about the local authority needs to work much harder with the agents, because it would have made our job a lot easier today, wouldn't it? If that traffic survey had been done, if all of these things had been ticked off, we're having to make a decision depending on.
The traffic survey isn't impacting in my mind on this decision. I think it's positive that the authority is doing that work, but the highway access for this development has been considered in its own right, and its own merits, and we haven't got the highway authority objecting. So from our perspective, there's no refusal reason there for that associated to highways, but I think it's positive for the community and the locals that are very concerned about the speed of traffic and movements there, for the highway authority doing this other piece of work. And we'll see where, as Alistair said, that will be evidence led. So let's see where that ends. Will it reduce the speed limit on that section of road and around potentially?
Thank you, Councillor Anger. Councillor Les, and then I will be taking it to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a clarification and further to Councillor Angela's comments, in our local village, we have a very similar situation where a fuel station created a retail space, and it's a busy place. But I noticed that through economic reasons, a lot of deliveries are made by articulated vehicles, and it is something that we have to accept these days. On this photograph that Angela's brought up, that is unmistakably the wheel of a lorry, and I think it could well be the delivery of articles to the premises. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I did promise the Vice Chair that I would go back to him. Vice Chair, do you have any further comments? Are you happy? Because I've been proposed and seconded. Thank you very much. Okay, it has been proposed and duly seconded to go along with the officer's recommendation, which is one, a conditional consent as set out in the update. Those members wishing to go along with that, please indicate in the chat box, which will appear momentarily with a voting slip. Thank you.
Chair, I will not vote on this application because I've not been present for the whole presentation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howard-Hugh. There it is, members. It's a hyperlink as usual. I'm going to click on that. That will take you to the voting form. Councillor Les, is that a legacy hand, is it?
Right, Chair, we've got 13 members able to vote. I need a vote from councillor Tom Colbert. Nothing's come through for you, councillor Tom.
Hi, Carol. Sorry, it's, I think I've just voted, but the computer was taking a long time to get to the form. It always does every time I go
Yeah.
for the first vote.
Okay, yeah,
Has it come through now?
Yes, I've got it now. It's come through. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So Chair, as I say, 13 members able to vote, 13 votes for the application.
Thank you very much, Carol. That's unanimous. That meets with the officer's recommendation. Thank you very much, Luke. We'll invite Colin back in and thank Rachel for sitting in for the legal side of things if there was any legal questions. Okay. Welcome back, Colin. On to our second and final application of the day, which is 22/1956/REM, a section 73 application to vary condition 2 of planning permission 19/1798/REM residential development of up to 45 dwellings to allow extension of time to submit a reserves matter application at Fair House, Churchstoke, Montgomery. Taking us through this is Richard Edwards. Over to you, Richard Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. So as just mentioned, I've got section 73 application in to extend the time frame of implementing or submission of reserve matters by a further 3 years. The application site, as you can see here indicated by the star, is located within a large village of Churchstoke. It is housing allocated site P12HA1. As way of background to this application, Plan Committee originally consented the outline plan permission back in 2017 for up to 45 dwellings. Subsequently, back in 2019 end of, a section 73 application similar to this one was also seen before committee as its powers application, and that was also granted conditional consent by committee. So the application before you here is a further section 73 application to extend the time frame of the submission of the reserve matters by a further 3 years. Just for familiarity, this is the application site, which is the housing allocated site. It's currently forms part of Powers Farms estate, I believe, and it's agricultural land. Here you can see the red line boundary. The long red line going towards the east is a pedestrian link. And here's an indicative layout that was approved by committee back in 2017. I say it's only indicative because the outline permission only considered the principle of development along with access. So the other matters are for reserve matter submission at a later stage. Just a bit of background, the outline permission sought appropriate level of affordable housing, 20%. There's financial contributions in respect of play provision. And as I mentioned, there's also a pedestrian link going out towards the east. No objections have been raised in respect to the section 73 application. A update has been provided in respect of ecology, and a further condition in respect of construction environment management plan has been attached in addition with all the previous conditions that were approved by committee, and also a new condition in respect of gigabyte broadband attached to it, which is something that we're adding to most developments going forward now. So my recommendation is conditional consent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Members, I'm in your hands, but this is a Powys County Council application. This is the third time it's been in front of this committee, so I am very disappointed to see it for a third time. And I hope after this, officers do build this out. I'm in your hands, members. Councillor Hywel-Hume, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one question. If this was, obviously it's had outline planning permission previously, will this now require a SAB application due to the size of the development, or is the need not to have a SAB based on the fact that it was approved several years ago?
Alistair, are you still about?
Yes, Chair.
Would you like to answer that question, because you deal with those?
Yeah. My understanding is, I would have to double check, but my understanding is they won't have to do a SAB application, but they will have to meet the sort of the standard, if you like. So they will be expected to design it to that standard. They just won't have to make the formal application.
So who checks on that?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Who checks on that standard, Alistair?
It goes through our SAB team.
Right. Okay.
So it's the same people dealing with it. It's just that whether they have to legally go through the process or whether they're expected to meet the Welsh Government standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe Councillor Howland, she's been satisfied with that answer. So
yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howland. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Yeah, just 2 points, Chair. Thank you. The first one, just for my understanding, for a Section 73 application such as this, do we ask if any other organisation would wish to have a Section 106 applied against this application? And the other one is on the plan you've got on the screen at the moment. The applications are indicative 45 houses, but there's only 30 dwellings identified on the plan.
Thank you. So in respect to Section 106 payments, appropriate departments have been consulted, and the feedback that has had is in respect of the financial contribution for play, which I think will be going to the Community Council. The proposal here, the description is for up to 45 dwellings. The layout, scale, etc., will be done at reserve matter. So this kind of demonstrating, it gives a bit of flexibility in respect of the permission. So we go into the density policies then and as to what land should provide in respect of densities, 27 plus dwellings per hectare in respect of large villages. That would be evidence-based as to the density provided. So it's not saying that they have to provide 45 dwellings, they can provide up to, but it would still need to meet policy, which would be reviewed through the submission of the reserve matters. As said, there may be factors which reduce the density slightly, but that would be for consideration at the reserve matter stage.
So just to follow on that, Chair, if I may. So you're saying it's they've got to have 27 dwellings per hectare. Is that right?
Yeah, that's currently what LDP policy states as a guidance.
So this site is 1.34 hectares, if I read it right.
The area here,
which means
like there is internal access roads which can reduce density any further requirements. Like this is internal access roads can reduce density. This is just a indicative layout to show it's capable of providing a housing development site. The reserve matters is another application that'll be submitted to formally agree as to the development.
But if it's 1.34 hectares, my calculation says that should be a minimum of 36 dwellings, well, 36.18. So a minimum of 37 dwellings, and they're coming forward with it. And the party's coming forward with an indicative layout with only 30 houses. You know, and I just think we need to make sure it's right as it's our own application, the Powys County Council's application. So are you saying that internal roads are excluded from that measurement?
Sorry.
It's indicative, like I can only say it's indicative because like it's an outline permission, which is section 73 is continuing. The matter that was considered at outline stage was access. She got layouts, landscaping, scale, to be considered through the reserve matters application. Those layouts will be considered with current LDP policy and to ensure that appropriate level of housing and other policies are met through that reserve matters application. If it's thought that a high density is needed, that's something to be discussed through the reserve matters application. This is just demonstrating that the site is capable of providing a residential development on this housing allocated site within Churchstoke.
Satisfied, councillor?
I'm happy, and Chair, I'm happy to move. We support officers' recommendations at the time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gareth. Did you want to come in there, Peter?
Yeah, I don't know the intention that the council has or with the site and where that might lead. If it continues to retain ownership and its intention, I haven't checked sort of council house building programs. I know Cabinet's just considered those recently, so I don't know if this site might be part of that proposal. But if we as an authority intend to build out here, the reserve matters application would have to come back to this committee anyway. If it was sold, then it would be the only way it would find its way back from the committee would be if it was called in by the local member or if I referred it to committee.
Thank you. Councillor Les George, please.
Thank you, Chair. I am happy with all the answers to the questions we've had in the debate. Did I hear right that I will second the proposal?
Thank you very much, Councillor Les. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
So when we're given a presentation, and we've had this in advance and you've shown it now, it's kind of pointless when you can't read the writing. So on this plan, I can zoom in, obviously on our copy, but I have no idea what that says. So I'm wondering what's the quality and what's the point of me having that? Because there's a lot of writing around the edge and I assume it's there for a reason. No idea what it says. So I'm just making a point.
Yeah,
So
well,
for
we do have a
future
public,
reference-
we do have a public website in which all the plans and
Yeah, that's
documentations
all
are
great. You do, you're right.
displayed, and you can zoom in and zoom out. And
And
I
that would be a
appreciate.
clearer copy then. Okay, I
Yeah.
stand corrected. That's my error. I should have gone online and checked that. Thank you very much. Okay, that told me. Secondly, really my question is, why hasn't it been built? So this is the third time it's coming before this panel. So under a local development plan, we might decide that the area A is primed for 50 new houses. And if we've had planning permission, the council has had a planning permission of up to 45. I'm assuming that means that only 5 other houses could be built in that area. So are we stifling growth in our rural communities if we're bed blocking effectively all the available planning in that area?
Some of this does go into internal powers discussions with other departments, which I can't really comment on at the moment. My understanding is between housing are looking to develop the site. There have been delays, COVID, knock-on effects that building materials, etc. But my understanding is powers are looking to develop the site, hence why the extension has come in. And referring to what Peter said on it before as well. So yeah, hopefully it comes forward because it is a housing allocated site and it is there for residential development within this plan. So yes, hopefully reserve matter is
So just double checking the dates. The original application was 2017.
Correct.
And that was for 3 years, was it?
So the outline is like 5 years where they've got to submit the reserve matters within the 3. So then they subsequently submitted a section 73 to extend the submission of a reserve matters. I think that was the end of 2019, maybe early 2020. And then this one is to continue on from that as well.
So it's to extend that 3 years of reserve matters. Right, okay. So I was just trying to work out, was it really due to be renewal, or were we playing some sort of game? I don't know.
Yeah, I can only consider what's in front of me. Like it is a housing development site included within current LDP policy. So there is presumption of residential development there. If a new application just say came in for residential development, it would look, the principle for residential development there is acceptable. So even though this is a section 73 continuation, it does meet all current policy, and the conditions are previously approved are still relevant. As I mentioned, a couple have been updated to just meet current policy recommendations.
Yeah, Peter, please.
So my only other question,
Yeah, so go on.
sorry, indulge me, Chair, is the play area. It says that it doesn't need a recreation play area because there's one locally and there'll be some funding for that. But how close is that?
I don't know the exact approximation of it. We do have an open space assessment, which does detail the open space play provisions within a community. And as you said, as given the proximity, it's likely there's one to be in close proximity to the development site. So instead of providing on-site provision, that's where the financial will be secured, paid to the community council for the upkeep, maintenance, provision of new equipment on existing play facilities.
So you say close, is there a definition? So it's got to be under 5 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, 100 miles?
There is the open space assessment. It's got like all the areas, the towns, large villages, etc. And there's like spheres of distances for different types of provision within those areas. So we look at them to see where they are with respect to development, when they fall inside or outside.
But with regards to this one, it doesn't say in the pack. With regards to this application, how far is it?
No, the information is on the website in the open space assessment. I don't have that on me at the moment, but like it's been consulted through by the relevant consultees who have requested that a financial contribution is appropriate in these circumstances, and they've defined what the financial provision should be.
Okay, so you're telling us it meets the criteria, and that's all we need to know.
As per consultation responses received on it, so that's what they want for the area, because there's provision there, a financial contribution is justified, and there's conditions that secure that.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to agree with my colleagues to approve this, but I think we really should be putting some pressure on the local authority. If you're going to have these applications in, they need to be built. We've already discussed the housing issues across Ptlrw, so we need to do everything in our power to make sure that that goes ahead.
Couldn't agree with you more, Councillor Angela. And this can be seen as a form of land banking. I know it isn't, but it could be seen as that because there was no COVID around in 2017 or 2019. Peter, over to you.
Yeah, just come back on the whole thing about land banking. Obviously, it's again not really one for this committee, but it's something that does exist. One of the reasons why we're in the replacement plan review, there's various reasons, but one of them was that allocated sites aren't coming forward for development as we anticipated when we put the plan together. So that in a sense triggered a review of the plan. We do over provide in the plan as well. So we were, I forget the figure off the top of my head, I knew it at one point, but we were sort of quite high as an authority in terms of over provided. We were up around about 20% from memory. So with the new plan, we're preparing it. We're going to test sites much harder, I think, this time around the candidate site process, wanting to know and have assurances that they are going to deliver. So that because the plan is being tested for delivery, so it's a big issue for policy. This, okay, and that's when we'll come back and all members will be involved in that in due course. But obviously, there's a working group that will be looking at that initially, and officer working group. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Peter. Councillor Hugh Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Angela has taken the wind out of my sails a bit, but condition 37 does mention prior to the commencement or development, a scheme for the provision of recreational facilities to serve the development must be submitted. There's also mention on page 31 of 106 contributions for play. Then the offer should go to Churchstoke Community Council. Who will make that approach? Because they maintain the nearest public play facilities, it says on page 31.
Okay, Richard.
So I've dealt with these more in section 106 obligations where the money has come in. So I'm just having a look at the detail. It may relate to the degree and as the dwellings come forward. In some agreements, they build X amount and then they pay, and then further section of the development comes forward and the next monies come in, and then the final amount is paid. So all the lump sum is going in. So whether they pay the full amount or they pay it in installments as the development is completed, that can quite often happen. So that'll be secure in the details in respect of how that money is coming to the authority. The money would go into our finance department, and then when it's held there, it could be, I understand, transferred to the community council for that specific use.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to catch you out in any shape or form, but because it mentions Churchstoke Community Council, are they aware of that possible benefit? That's all I'm asking, because it specifically says so.
Yeah, they should be, and it'll be communicated to them because they would have been involved in they've been consulted on the application throughout the course of its lifetime of the original outline, the section 73, and the one here now. They've noted the details of it. As the monies come into the authority, it will be communicated with the authority that they are there for this specific provision, and they'll be entitled to them for spend on the play equipment as appropriate.
Okay, Chair, diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Diolch, Councillor Hugh. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Yeah, just for clarity for Angela, perhaps in my previous role with the council, the playground is adjacent to the community centre and the school, which I think from looking at the plans is about 150 yards away. So and you know, it's a really good setup in my view.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Councillor Gareth E. Jones. I believe that we've got 3 hands up and their legacy hands. Yeah. Great. Okay, it has been proposed and duly seconded to go along with officer's recommendation, which is one of consent. Those members wishing to go along with that conditional consent, please indicate in the chat where the voting slip will appear momentarily. Thank you. And there it is, members.
Chair, 14 members are eligible to vote and 14 members have voted for the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Carol. That's unanimous. That concludes the applications for today. Thank you for that presentation, Richard. On to the last item of the agenda, which is item number 5, which is the delegated list, which came through on email. Are there any members wishing to clarify anything on there, or you're happy to take it as accurate representation? If I could have a proposer and seconder, please. Thank you very much, Councillor Les. A seconder. Thank you very much, Councillor Gareth D. Jones. I see no one else has any observations, so that's great. So that concludes the planning meeting for today. Just like to thank officers who presented and helped out today, and members and you members in the chamber and members at home, the press and the public watching. Carol, could we have the date for the next meeting, please?
Yes, Chair, the next meeting's on the 27th of April.
27th of April. Okay. I therefore close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Right.